Hey everyone, Crisis here. I just wanted to start this video off by thanking you guys for watching, any newcomers or those returning alike. For those unsubscribed, I'd appreciate it if you did so. I have a ton of content on comic books and video games, who would win type videos as well as video essays. I as well stream pretty frequently on here, general hangouts as well as let's plays. If you end up liking this video, be sure to check out other content on my channel, like and subscribe, and support me on Patreon if you'd be so kind. Thank you, and enjoy. With John Wick Chapter 4 on everyone's mind, it's time to pit him against another night-stalking noir-inspired badass in the form of the Batman. Both characters are incredibly stealthy, highly skilled fighters with nearly inexhaustible arsenals, so I see it fit to pit them against one another in an all-out cage match to see who would come out on top. Of course, Batman does not kill, unlike Wick, so he'll more so be going for the knockout. The version of Batman I'll be using is from his latest cinematic outing, as he matches up the closest to John Wick, but if you're wondering how any of the other cinematic Batman would fare with John after watching this video, I have many others comparing Pattinson to the likes of Bale and Batfleck as far as combat capabilities are concerned, so check those out as well. With all that said, let's begin this breakdown and see who would win. The Batman as depicted in his 2022 film is perhaps the most visceral version put to screen. He's Gotham's greatest defender, aiding and many times surpassing the Gotham City Police Department when it comes to solving cases and conspiracies, showcasing his mental mastery throughout his pursuit of the Riddler and during various criminal investigations shown throughout the film's prequel novel. Where the world's greatest detective really shines insofar as a video like this is concerned is his martial arts abilities, with the movie's stunt coordinator describing Robert Pattinson as being trained in eskrima, kali, arnis, silat, muay thai, and boxing/kickboxing. In the prior mentioned prequel novel, we learned that Alfred Pennyworth, based on his time in the British Secret Service, imparted to Wayne the knowledge surrounding the forms of karate, judo, and taekwondo, merging them into a kind of composite style. Taking all of this into account, combined with statements that Batman is a master of these martial arts, as well as a perfect user of them, this version of the Caped Crusader would be able to take advantage of up to nearly a dozen fighting styles, all to the highest level. Melee weapons with eskrima or kali, joint manipulation with silat, clench techniques with muay thai, striking with either his hands or legs via kickboxing, more so kicking with taekwondo and karate, tosses with judo. He's a very well-rounded fighter, which is on full display throughout his various assaults on Gotham's underworld, quickly snapping bones and leaving his opposition as crumpled and broken piles by the end of his combinations. Hardened vagrants, trained bodyguards, and indignant militias seeking to deal with Batman all come up short-handed. This is as well due partly because of his various gadgets, those being his grappling gun, which he uses either to make quick escapes or as an offensive weapon, piercing his opponent's flesh and pulling them around like some Mortal Kombat scorpion move. He has a blade-style batarang in his chest-mounted compartment of his suit, as well as a current running outwards from his palms, granting his close-quarters combat an electric buff, as well as a shot of adrenaline confirmed not to be venom in the film's art book, which can take Batman to being completely beaten and immobilized to enraged and energized like nothing ever happened. He essentially has a one-up whenever he wants. His intelligence is also a huge factor to his character, being well-versed in many aspects of criminology, capable of spotting subtle clues throughout the environment. Batman himself believes that his years as a vigilante have outright heightened his senses to nearly a superhuman degree, noting that he can almost smell the criminal element in a crowd of bystanders. His analytical ability leaves bomb squads and even a room full of detectives following in his footsteps, making his formal education at the top of his classes kind of look like the least impressive accolade under his belt. He's also a genius-level inventor, with many of his weapons and equipment all being personally devised by Bruce Wayne himself. Physically, this Batman resembles a Terminator, with his armor allowing him to walk through hails of gunfire, endure blunt force trauma, and pretty much fall from buildings without a scratch. boasting a bulletproof batsuit with pretty much his entire body coated in armor, even with his cowl being presented as such, handgun, SMG, assault rifle, and shotgun blasts at even point blank all do very little insofar as slowing down the Dark Knight. Of course, over time and with enough damage, he can be downed by armaments, but it takes a lot of bullets to do so. He can knock out grown men in single punches, even when outside of his suit, lift up and toss opponents like they're made of air, and even survive a point-blank explosion, with this bomb being calculated to yield nearly 4 kilotons of TNT. While this did knock Batman unconscious for a time, his armor was completely undamaged, with the Dark Knight being able to get up and fight off multiple trained police officers immediately after, meaning it would take more than this amount of energy, in all likelihood, to outright kill the Batman. John Wick, also known as the Boogeyman, is the most feared assassin in a world where being a hitman seems to be the most commonplace career path. Having braved the war against the rich and powerful of his world, he's taken down dozens and dozens of highly trained foes, SWAT teams, other master assassins, ninja samurai, all with weird or contrasting styles to John that still ultimately prove a little challenge for the Baba Yaga. Based on director statements, Wick would know some combination of judo, aikido, jitsu, and sambo, mainly favoring grappling styles, mixing them with a lethal application of his likely expert level marksmanship to become the premier assassin in his universe. His pain tolerance and willpower are legendary, being able to fight on after taking many otherwise lethal hits, beatings, falls, gunshots, walking many of them off and completing his mission with barely any aid in between. His skills insofar as clearing entire rooms of able-bodied combatants are top tier, and it's pretty much all he does. Wick, even just physically, is also nothing to scoff at, being able to pretty casually snap necks with single strikes, or outright leaving trained soldiers in a daze with very few hits. He's even deadly enough with innocuous objects such as pencils, infamously. Pretty much anything lying around he'll use to deadly effect, such as cars, horses, and even books. On that note, he himself boasts a bulletproof layer within his suits, allowing him to take many gunshots and remain standing. That combined with his nearly superhuman levels of willpower. If it wasn't clear by now, John is also a genius-level combatant, adapting on the fly to opponents boasting their own unorthodox means of fighting, such as sumo-style wrestlers, the deadliest female hitman, a boxer in the form of Ruby Rose's character, and sword wielders, finding gaps in their armor, or even using his belt to defend himself against bladed assaults. Pretty much the only time Wick is ever caught lacking is either when he's unaware or exhausted after fighting the various gauntlets as seen in the films, and he's still yet to be outright bested. His application of his fighting styles should be at master level, considering Donnie Yen's character in John Wick has been described as such, with Wick trading blows with said fighter in the film, placing Wick as pretty much the highest caliber practitioner of nearly 5 fighting styles. He's also described as somebody boasting intense dedication and focus, so again, it's pretty likely that he's trained himself to the highest level of all of his abilities. His most impressive display of tactical and martial skill may very well be seen in John Wick Chapter 3, where the High Table, which are pretty much like the Illuminati of the series, send a squad of armored soldiers to take Wick out, and with minimal equipment by comparison, he lays waste to what should logically be the most effective and deadly killers on Earth. The High Table, who pretty much deals with all assassinations in the world, are fully aware of Wick's renown. They want him taken care of to the utmost, so they're going to send their best men after him by all logic, and they still fail. His speed insofar as his ability to seize victory is as well top tier, barrel rolling away from gunfire, bouncing from enemy to enemy, chaining gun-fu combinations again and again. It's safe to say he'd represent the peak of our real-world fighters, with the fastest recorded boxer, punching with speeds up to 45 miles per hour, which is pretty appropriate seeing as in the Payday description of John Wick, he was described as being a boxer in the past, meaning John could dodge and react to attacks at that level. He too packs a lethal punch with each of his various weapons he carries across his entire body. His most iconic set likely being that scene in John Wick Chapter 2, where he boasts a Glock 34 and 26 handguns, an AR-15, a Benelli M4, and a straight blade. This combined with his bullet-resistant tucks, top-tier use of grappling, master-level marksmanship, all make John Wick a true one-man army. So, considering both fighters' accolades and achievements, they do seem fairly evenly matched on the surface, both high-level martial artists with cutting-edge tech and equipment. However, I have to say, as strictly a hand-to-hand combatant, Wick seems more impressive to me outright. This version of Batman, so far, lacks any kind of feats against any other notable martial artists, compared to John, who constantly contends with the top of the top trained killers on Earth, and pretty much always comes out with the W, often even in an injured state. Batman would know more fighting styles on paper, I guess, but all the same, Wick many times deals with opponents boasting mastery of forms that John himself doesn't seem to be skilled in, or is at least not stated to be skilled in, and he still wins. The director of the bulk of the Wick series even said that they always try to give John opponents with styles contrasting of his own.
It's like two people who speak different languages trying to communicate. If you have both of us speaking English now, we communicate as would be expected. The other way to do it is very subversive. How do you communicate with me if I don't speak a word of English? And if I've never met you before, if I don't know anything about our social habits? And that's what we do with martial arts. We figure what are the interesting combinations.
It seems that despite knowing less martial arts styles than Batman, the fighting forms he is a master of is just better than what most other styles have to offer. So I think Wick's adaptive abilities would see him come out on top in an outright martial arts battle. Unfortunately, most of John's standard kit or tactics won't be effective against Batman due to his cutting-edge experimental bulletproof armor. His strikes, tosses, locks, kicks, etc. aren't going to be effective as long as Batman's suit remains a factor and he plays it smart. It's simply too durable for Wick to even possibly harm Batman, as it was totally unfazed by a point-blank explosion as mentioned before. Basically, the entire front of Batman was exposed to this blast, and it was completely undamaged, so there likely aren't many structural gaps in his armor to take advantage of here. Not to mention, it's consistently seen as bulletproof, just blatantly, whereas John Wick and almost everyone he fights goes down from a single shot to the head and chest, despite some of his other better feats that honestly seem like exceptions rather than the rule. Most of the time when he's shot, even in his most high-tech suits, it still gravely injures Wick, as opposed to Batman just constantly walking through hallways of gunfire. Meaning that while Wick is arguably a better fighter, Batman is simply too durable for either John's hand-to-hand skills nor his armaments. While Wick has dealt with many well-armored and exceptionally strong foes before, none of them have displayed the ability to just shrug off rifle fire or shotgun blasts altogether, implying that Wayne's genius, along with his company's resources, allowed him to create better armor than any seen in the Wick franchise. The Dark Knight is also, of course, very skilled himself, capable of avoiding gunshots from multiple opponents from in front of and behind him as well. So I don't think Wick is just clearing the fight with a well-placed shot, which leaves most of John's abilities rendered ineffective by Batman's armor. It's only a matter of time before he succumbs to blunt force trauma, a submission hold, or TKO. Or maybe Wick just pokes him in the eye with a pencil or shoots Batman in the mouth. I don't know. Be sure to as well check out the Chad Champs channel in the description and pinned comment, as he is a buddy of mine who's also working on John Wick vs. Leon Kennedy, which is actually a video that people have asked me to make as well. With all that said, be sure to let me know your thoughts or suggestions for future matchups in the comments down below. Subscribe to my Patreon, linked on screen, to join my Discord server and speak to me directly. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.